Welcome back to another episode of the Elevated Chat Room. Elevate your mind, elevate your life. It's your host, Lonzo Jones. I'm back again. Now, the topic for tonight is shaping futures one student at a time. And we have a special guest with us tonight, Dr. Corey Beal. He's the Director of Career Technical and Specialized Education, the Launch, and the Southwire 12 for Life program. Now, Dr. Beal, tell them a little bit more about yourself.
So I've been an educator for about 25 years now. I've worked with a lot of different programs and a lot of different students over those 25 years. I've truly enjoyed it and been fortunate to work with some really good students, really good kids, and some really good people. And been blessed to make some special things happen in terms of life change and just doing everything that we can do to maximize student function and potential. Okay,
so what made you get into the educational field?
Just wanted to have an impact. I felt like there's a need that young people have. They need good role models. True. They need people to invest in them, people to focus on potential over limitations, and help unlock that in young people and help them believe they can do something maybe that no one's ever told them they can accomplish.
I like that. So where are you originally from?
Florence.
Okay. So
I graduated from Coffee High School in 1988.
Okay.
Few years ago, a couple years back.
So when you went off to college, did you go off? You stay here? Like what the college situation look like?
Went to Athens State University. Went to University of North Alabama. Got my master's in educational specialist degree, and then went to Samford University and got my doctoral degree.
Okay. All right. So now we can go ahead with the first question that we got here. It said, "What first inspired you to work with the youth and families?"
Again, just kind of reiterating on what I said a few minutes ago is I believe there's a lot of young people that need someone to invest in them, someone to unlock potential, help them discover their talents. And I think there's a lot of parents that are good people, but maybe they didn't have the right role models, and they need someone to teach them how to bring out the best in their children and how to create an environment of unconditional love, and again focusing on potential over limitations, and how to catch them when they're doing well.
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's really important when you're trying to get someone to function at the highest level. Is you've got to catch them when they're doing good.
Yeah.
And let them know you value those decisions, and that's going to increase the chances they have a desire internally to repeat it.
Yeah.
Because hey, I got a pat on the back or something of that nature.
Everybody needs a pat on the back.
Yeah. So the main reason again was just to positively impact young people and families. You just want to see people do well.
Yeah.
You want to see people have a really good quality of life, and if I can do something to add value to someone's life, that's one of the greatest things we can do while we're here.
That's dope. So in what phase of life were you in when you really saw the youth and the families, they really need somebody to pull some things out, and they really need to be led into their purpose? When that light bulb, what was that light bulb moment for you?
So I'm glad you asked that. So for me, I was late in discovering what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I guess what some people would say what your calling is. Yeah. And I began volunteering at Riverbend Center for Mental Health.
Okay.
Ended up getting my first degree. Went in the psychology field and was able to get a full-time position with Riverbend Center for Mental Health. Met some phenomenal people under that roof, and worked with some great folks. And while in that experience, I worked with some challenging young people, some challenging adolescents, some challenging dynamics, and I loved working with adolescents and children that maybe in the school system they were struggling, and a lot of people were just focusing on the negative.
Yeah.
Well, they've got behavioral issues, or they've got, and they would tell me, oh, well, they're really challenging. I don't know if you can do anything with, like, everybody's got potential. Every person's got potential to do great things. And it was really gratifying, maybe taking some of the most challenging youth, and by some things that I did and some others that I worked with, just completely transform them into just very high functioning, compliant, just young people where they just wanted to do well. And, for kids don't care what you know till they know that you care.
There you go.
And you have to build relationships.
Yes, sir.
And if you build that relationship and they see that you're for them, they'll go through the wall for you. So it was at Riverbend Center for Mental Health. I felt like that's when it truly reaffirmed, this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's what transitioned into me getting my education degree and getting into that spectrum of things.
So that's pretty awesome, man. I like the aspect of how you was actually in the trenches and you hands-on, and you really saw, like, hey, these kids, they say that, they are the ones that have the bigger challenges, but it seems like you was up for the challenge. And you can tell you got a passion behind it by just sitting here talking to you right now, and that you actually care about what you're doing, and you really trying to, reach these kids. When you're talking about building rapport and building trust, man, that's the most important thing, because they're not going to open up to you until you actually have some type of bond. And you also have to be transparent with them and let them know that, hey, you know what? In my past, I got some flaws too. Like, I'm not perfect. So don't look at me because I'm the one that's here doing the counseling, or I'm your mentor, I'm the one that's teaching you. Hey, I got some problems too. So I think that helps build the gap as well.
Absolutely. And your past struggles or flaws are what helps you relate with people.
True.
Because then that gives you a story. And we try to teach our high school students that we work with is, it doesn't matter how you start. It's your life is a series of chapters in a book. You're writing a book. You're writing your story. And to me, I love helping someone climb a hill. I love someone helping someone overcome challenges or barriers that maybe they thought they didn't have, the ability to do. But, going back to what you said a second ago, I love doing the work. I love being in the trenches and working with these young people, because they need that. And now, probably in my role as career technical director, I'm in more of a supervisory role. And I'm not able to build the relationships with the kids as much. And I miss that. I really miss that. And I'm going to try to be a little bit more intentional on that, getting myself a little bit more involved in some of these programs next year, because I love doing the work. I love listening to young people. Everybody's got a story, building those relationships with them and just helping them be a person that maybe they didn't think they could be before they, adding value to somebody's life. That's one of the greatest things you can do while you're here. It's not about me. It's about other people and being a bright light for somebody.
Yeah.
They need it. We all need it.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, with the passion and your background, you're able to reach and teach them because, like I said, you really care. You can, like I said, I can just feel that. And you spoke about, as you move up in the world, you got a higher title. So now it's like, man, I have to really make an intentional effort now to really reach and touch these kids. And that goes back to if that's something that you really want to do. Like, if you really feel like that's still important as far as what your purpose is, or is it more like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to make sure everything's in line so the people that's working for me or that's that I supervise, they're the ones making and building relationships. So like I said, it just boils down to which one you want to do. You can do both, So
we've got a saying, you're either inflating a tire or you're deflating a tire.
Okay.
And I want to inflate a tire, so to speak. And, I think that a lot of these young people, unfortunately, and like me as well, and you probably can relate with this. Sometimes they come across dream stealers or someone that focuses on the negative things they do, and they hear messages of maybe you can't do this or you're bad or well what. And those words matter.
Yeah.
They matter. And, if you tell a child that, that's what they're going to give you. So you've got to be intentional about depositing things into their think tank that make them, hey, I'm good, I'm valuable, and just unlocking potential. It's really gratifying, especially as they get, into high school and they don't know what they want to do. You helping them discover their talents and their purpose.
Yeah.
And just showing them through the positive reinforcement, you can do anything you want to do. And it doesn't matter what somebody's told you can't do. You've got to have a belief. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. And that's just been the most gratifying part of my career, is just seeing life change, life transformation with, people that maybe arrived at our, in our program that just maybe weren't at the best place.
Yeah, we like to tell people, all the kids all the time, you were created on purpose for purpose. Because most kids truly feel like they're just here existing and they're not living. So that was just going back to something that you had said. It just brought that back to my memory. Like we go to an assembly and it's like, hey kids or students, the chair you're sitting on, does it serve a purpose? Yes. The microphone that I'm using, does it serve a purpose? Yes. And I was like, these things do not have life. So what you're telling me is that a chair or a microphone has more purpose than you? I was like, God created you like specifically down to every single detail. So you have to get in your mind that you have a purpose. And that's one thing that we just try to have. You got a purpose. You got a purpose. You got a purpose. You have to believe that. And like you said, it takes somebody from the outside. And that's why it's also so important to be on the same page with the parents. Going back with you first, when you first started talking, it's like getting these parents involved, because we can sit here and pour into the kids all day. But if they go home to a toxic environment and the parents not on the same page as us, I mean, we just it's a battle.
Well, and that's one thing that I try to, instill in my staff is, you've got certain students that unfortunately, are exposed to negativity in their environment. And you've got students more than ever before that are walking around with mental health issues.
Yep.
And they'll tell you they're fine and they're not fine. And they're really pre-lit fuses. They're angry because hurt leads to anger. Hurt transitions into anger. And a lot of times that manifests in some discipline issues at the high school. And certain people, if they've got discipline issues, they want them out of the room. They want them. And if we don't catch those kids and do an intervention before they get out of the high school, they're headed down a wrong track. So, all of us as educators under that umbrella, we have just an awesome opportunity to change lives. And I love, catching those students maybe that are on a negative track and reversing it. Hey, we're going to give you an opportunity, get them in one of our programs. Our Southwire program has been a catalyst for life change. Mm-hmm. And it's created outcomes that, these young people can have a great quality of life. Yeah. But it's so much teaching involved. You've got to teach them why to make good decisions. How's this going to benefit you? Help them understand you're writing your life story. And let's make it a good ending.
Yeah. Like you can tell when someone is just teaching or just educating as compared to someone that's a teacher or educator. And you have a lot of professionals that are just teaching and just educating, but they don't embody the title, the position. And what you're speaking from, where you're speaking from is you are that. You are educated. You're not just there showing up to collect a check and just going through the motion. It's like you can literally tell by just sitting here talking with you that, man, you really, really, you don't take your position for granted. you know, you could tell that you are passionate. And it's like, hey, I'm here on purpose, so I got to make sure I'm doing my job to the fullest. So you can definitely tell that. So, hey, big ups to that.
Well, I think being an educator is a calling. And I think we've got some phenomenal educators, you know, in our district, in our system. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of them, but kids can tell.
Oh yeah,
they can tell.
Yes.
They do not care what degree you have. Is again, it's building a relationship dynamic with them where they feel like you're invested in them.
Yes,
and there's a difference. And a good employee and an invested employee, like you're truly invested in seeing every student maximize their potential.
Yeah,
and it's a very gratifying feeling when you play a part in that growth of that young person.
That's one of the best, the most fulfilling feelings you can have is when you're doing things like that. So let me ask you this. So we talked about counseling. You mentioned counseling earlier about when you was at Riverbend. So how has counseling shaped your approach to leadership and education?
That's a good question. It's basically taught me how people think.
Okay.
And when you learn how people think, and you learn that people think differently, and they function differently based on their life experiences,
Yes, sir.
And what they've been exposed to. So when you learn how they think, that helps you form strategies to build trust with people. And it helps you form strategies to motivate certain people. You know, you might motivate one person, that can be a young person or an adult, an employee, whatever, to do a really good job one way.
Yes.
They may or may not work.
Right.
So there's some people that are a little bit more challenging. You have to think outside the box. But there's something, you know, to figure out what is somebody's why and help them discover someone's why. This is the why you do what you do. This is the why that I do what I do. You know, so again, just building that trust dynamic. But, you know, the counseling helped me discern how someone thinks. I've learned how to love somebody where they're at. Love them where they're at. And if you don't love them where they're at, then you can't lead them where they need to go.
That's good.
You've got to meet them, and you've got to find common ground.
Come on.
Don't focus on what you maybe agree or disagree. Find common ground, because you build from common ground. And you know, a lot of times when maybe there's a conflict, maybe someone, whether that be an employee or a young person that's made a bad decision, well, that's a teaching moment. That is a teachable moment, because we've all done it. So when they make a wrong turn, when they take a left when they should have took a right, so to speak, you use that as an opportunity to say, you know, this is why we don't do that. This is why, this is the outcome that follows that decision. You know, now there's a consequence or whatever. But you teach them through that. What have we learned? What did you learn? What are you going to do different? You know, this was part of your life story. You know, this was a moment in time, and you're going to grow from this experience. But you leave them with the hope and potential again. Like, guess what? You made a mistake. Like I have. We learn from this. We grow from this. You're going to make more mistakes, but not this one again.
There you go. That's good.
And guess what? Guess what you're doing there when you it's called processing it.
Okay.
You know, when somebody makes a bad choice, it is a teachable moment. And when you process that with them, you can't just tell people, no, don't do that. Sometimes you have to give them some alternate choices. Instead of doing that, do this, because if you just tell them no, well, they don't know what else to do. They might have seen that behavior modeled. So you tell them, what did that choice lead to? Led to a bad outcome. Instead of doing that, here are two more options that you can do the next time, possibly that you get angry Everybody gets angry, but you have to teach them how to channel it, how to channel it productively. And also the importance of having self-control. But when you're using that as a teachable moment, ultimately what you're doing is behavior modification.
Yep.
That's what's happening in that moment. And then you've played a part in somebody's growth process. We teach them math. We teach them reading.
Right.
You teach them behaviors.
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the things that we've seen that's lacking in, most schools is the life skills, from coping mechanisms to how to deal with, father not being in your life, financial one-on-one classes, credit, like all these different things that by the time you hit 20 years old, 2 years removed from college, you're going to need all these tools, even cooking, cleaning. Like we don't teach them the basic things. Like I said, we'll give them all the math and the science and all those kind of things. But what about the person? Are we teaching them, like I said, emotional stability? Are we teaching them how emotional intelligence? Are we teaching them how to overcome? Are we teaching them how to bounce back?
So that's a very good content right there, because in our 12 for Life and our launch programs, all of the students are required to go through what we call professional skills.
Okay.
And the professional skills curriculum that we actually created is decision making.
Good.
And making them understand that choices produce outcomes. Personal accountability.
That's good.
Whatever you do, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look to blame someone else. You own it.
Yes, sir.
And communication skills, how to communicate, eye contact.
Yes, sir.
There's so much of the phone nowadays.
Yeah.
You've got to have interpersonal skills, be able to look someone in the eye and communicate, because that demonstrates self-confidence. You've got to learn how to work with a team collectively. We teach these young people that no job was created for you. You have to adapt to jobs. There's going to be certain parts of that job that you don't want to do it.
Right.
Guess what? That's me. There's certain parts that I don't want to do. Guess what? That's part of your role.
Yes, sir.
And you've got to overcome those negative thoughts. You mentioned something a second ago, overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
That is a big one, because we all have it. We all, at times have different hills to climb, right? Whether it be financial, whether it be family dynamics, or whatever that is, relationships. So we train our students to be mentally and emotionally resilient and instill self-confidence. If you instill self-confidence in a young person, that's probably the number one target we've got. Mm-hmm. Because if they leave us self-confident, they're going to be successful in anything they do, because that means they've got an intrinsic belief in themselves. They can do anything. And we teach them to avoid victim mentality.
That's good.
We avoid that, because that's not going to do them any benefit. And there's, unfortunately, a lot of students that come to us with really challenging life backgrounds.
Yeah.
Very difficult. You mentioned a second ago, maybe not having a dad in the home. And when someone's telling me that, I tell them, this is really good. And I'll tell you why. Because you have a testimony. You have a story. This was your life journey. And you're going to be able to help someone else that went through this difficulty. There's a reason you went through what you're going through. And you can't do anything about yesterday.
Right.
Can't do anything about your past. What you can do is start today and affect the ending. Can't do anything about the beginning, but you can start today and affect how your story ends.
That's good.
So, but we make them realize, hey, use what you went through for fuel.
Yes, motivation.
Yes. And climb this hill.
Yes. And one thing we like to tell them too, like, look, has anyone ever grown up in your type of situation? Yes. Okay. So has anybody grown up in your situation and been successful? Yes. Okay. So what is your excuse? So you've already told me that it's possible that somebody's grown up in a situation similar to yours and they end up becoming successful. So now let's put you on that path. Let's set some goals. Now let's set some steps and execute the plan to get to the goal. And that's what we try to make them understand. As long as you're consistent at doing the right thing, you're consistent at following your plan, you have to get to the goal. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, it may be some bumps in the road. You may have to be flexible and adapt. Yeah. But guess what? If you go to the gym, like I'm a sports guy, if you go to the gym every day and you practice ball handling drills in the correct way, if you do shooting drills in the correct way, and you do it consistently enough, guess what? Sooner or later, on a game day, it's going to start showing up because you have put in enough work and you have been consistent. Same thing with losing weight. If you're consistent, those things happen. So the same thing in life, and we have to, like I said, prepare them for the adversities. And you guys have a great program. How long is the program?
It's basically, we have students that actually get into the program in 10th grade.
Okay.
And they can stay in the program all the way through the end of high school.
Okay.
And, a big part of what you're talking about also is goal setting. Mm-hmm. So we want them to visualize, again, help them discover their talents, their things, their gifts, because everybody's got God-given gifts. Mm-hmm. It's just helping them tap into it, believe, hey, this is a gift. This is your purpose here. And then visualize that goal, write it down, write down the action steps. These are your action steps. These are what's going to lead you to that goal. And then it's our job to speak life into them and to catch them when they're doing well, reinforce it. Hey, you did a really good job. Your production levels went up. Catching that, because that just starts to really condition them. They want to do well. Everybody wants a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Think about what that does for a young person.
Yeah.
Hey, I caught you doing something well. And some people will have to change the way they think. They catch something negative, and it's like they've got glasses on. They're focused on what they're doing wrong, and they're there for that.
Yep.
But what are you doing to promote them to have an internal desire to do well for you? But the program, they can enter the program at our 12 for Life in 10th grade, and a lot of them will stay with us the whole time.
Sweet.
And I truly believe it's because they love the culture.
Hey, that's what it's all about.
It's the culture. And our launch program, which has basically been created because there was such a high volume of interest in our 12 for Life program, we were turning away. And I don't say that bragging. I hate it. We couldn't hire everybody, but we were turning away about 100 students. We said, this is unacceptable. We need another model to integrate these students in. We created Launch. Both of them combined have won 17 state or national awards.
That's
and
amazing.
We've created 12 other programs across the state now.
That sounds
similar models. So again, we're helping kids that we'll never meet.
Yeah, but it's not
Powerful.
about that. Yeah.
Because that's what life's about.
Yes.
Adding value. And what you guys are doing here adds value to people's lives. So
that's amazing.
I love being around like-minded people.
Yes. Yeah, it's contagious, man. It gives you that. Sometimes it's like you need to be around those people that are like-minded, or even those that think higher than you or different than you, because it gives you that extra, that motivate. It kind of recharges you, a refresher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To me, it's just energy.
Yes.
It's just positive energy.
Yes. There's a quote that I have. That's why I got my phone out. There's a quote that I wrote down earlier today. It says, encouragement and positive reinforcement are often more effective than relying solely on criticism. So, and I said, I do a lot of coaching. So that's one thing that I've been working on. Like, I'm going to criticize you because, you're just making a mistake. But at the same time, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you some positive reinforcement. I'm still going to encourage you. So to be like, criticize, now I'm going to encourage you up. Or I may encourage you, good job, but next time, don't do this. So I'm working on finding that balance, because sometimes we do solely just focus on criticism to motivate, but all athletes are different, just like all your students are different.
So I will say this. We're very intentional, and we've trained our staff to be very intentional with, we call it front loading.
Okay.
Proactive, positive reinforcement. And we have tours. We have people come from all over, and when we're doing presentations, we show them our data, our attendance data, our discipline. We have minimal to no discipline at our Southwire 12 for Life program, minimal to none. And people are like, well, What's the secret sauce to that? How do you? And I'll tell you what it is. It's the culture, and again, it's focusing on their potential rather than limitations. But more than anything, we're intentional about proactive, positive reinforcement. If you front load, give them proactive, catch them when they're doing well, you're not going to have issues on the back end because you're training them, you're catching them doing well. They want to do it again. I like the way you got here early today. That was awesome. That was phenomenal. I like the way you got straight A's. Just catching it and just reinforcing it. They'll want to repeat it again.
Yeah, I like that.
I know you don't get along with that person, but I love the way you worked with them today. That was great. But that's teaching them a life skill.
Yeah,
because you ain't gonna like everybody you work with.
That's true.
That's just facts. But you gotta respect them. They're part of this team, and this organization is not about me. I'm a teammate, and I've got to be a good teammate. Yeah.
So we've been talking about the launch and the 12 for Life. So what impact have you seen from the programs? So what impact have you seen from the two programs?
So hundreds of career outcomes off these programs. With our Southwire program, we've got it set up as an apprenticeship where we actually, the past 2 years combined, we've hired near 30 full-time, high-paying, high-demand jobs that everybody wins. I call it, we try to create dynamics. Everybody wins. Everybody benefits from this. So Southwire gets good employees. Our students get a job, or I don't even call it a job, it's a career where they can have a really good quality of life. And we tell them to not look at anything as a job. Don't look at it through those lenses. Everything that comes your way is an opportunity. And you have a mindset, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to turn it into something bigger and something better. So career outcomes, they get grade incentive bonuses for making A's and B's. Their attendance changes. They get attendance bonuses in our 12 for Life program. Our launch program is career focused. We've got students in engineering roles, medical roles, electrician, welding, just all different types of career roles. We actually put them in those business industry channels. We've got 120 business industry partners, not just local. We've got them in Nashville. We've got them in Huntsville. But these roles, putting these students in these areas before they leave high school, junior, senior year, think about what that does for them. Big. That's networking connections. It's doing things that people didn't think we could do in high school. When we first started, well, they can't be a welder in high school. Oh, yes, they can. We learn how to knock down walls. Like, let's find a way. Because if something's going to benefit a young person, we need to figure out how to make it happen rather than focus on why it can't happen.
That's good. So what are the qualifications for your programs?
So the students understand that we ultimately want them to function in a certain way in that school. And that doesn't mean that they haven't had some issues in the past.
Right.
But what we want to do is say, we can't do anything about what happened last year, but from this point on, they understand there's a certain expectation that if you want to embarrass yourself, that's fine. But you're not going to embarrass, you're part of something bigger now. And you've got to function under our expectations, and our expectations are high. And I think that's very good because these young people will rise to the ceiling that you set. And so we want them to follow rules at school. We want them to be respectful. I teach them that I used to function under a mindset that I'll be respectful to you if you're respectful to me. And I taught them as I got more wisdom, I don't operate like that anymore. I respect everybody because I'm going to do the right thing. I can control me. I can't control how somebody treats me. But we want them walking out, you be respectful to everybody. And there's certain people that everybody doesn't, I don't like them. Well, everybody's got value. Don't treat somebody as they are. Treat them as they could be. And, focus on their potential. You've got potential, so do they. Bring it out. And a lot of times you can change someone's negative behavior with your positive behavior. So, just the career transitions, the career outcomes is just really gratifying. Seeing a young person get a scholarship. We have signing days. These businesses in the
That's
industry.
pretty cool. Right there.
We're going to do more of them.
Yeah.
We're going to do more of them. We're just now, scratching the surface. We've got some better things coming next year, bigger and better. But the students know there's an expectation with us that we want you to do the right thing because that's the right thing.
Okay, but how do they get into the program?
So they've got to apply.
Okay.
So they have a code that comes to their what's called their canvas at school, and we put that out February, March. We let them know that we're starting to accept applications for Southwire, 12 for Life, or Launch, and they start completing those applications. They've got to have some references at school. More than anything else, when we interview them, which is a long process because, as I mentioned, we've got about 200 that apply for each program on average. So we're running through groups of 6, but we want them to be able to tell their why.
Okay.
Why do you want this opportunity, and what do you plan to do with it? And I will tell you, those are some emotional conversations sometimes because you've got some young people that will tell you they need to earn some money to keep lights on in the house.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to keep composed when I hear that because that's real.
Yeah.
That's some real stuff. And we want to really try to help as many young people as we can that have a need in those programs. But, they do understand once they get under these umbrellas that in these programs that we do have high expectations because the higher our expectations are, we're better preparing them for the next room they're going to walk into, which is real world expectations.
That's good. So the program is it available for all students in the area, or just in Lauderdale?
It's Florence City Schools. And again, our Southwire program, they can be as young as 9th grade. They've got to be at least 16. Got to pass a drug screen, of course. That's a requirement that, to be employed at Southwire.
Yeah.
And they've got to fill out their why, and of course answer that in the interview process. But that's 12 for Life, and then our Launch. They've got to have a career interest. Like, what is your career path? And they have to have references from the school. It can be a coach. It can be, a teacher that they've had, someone that can speak on their behalf because it's competitive. Yeah. It is competitive. So we want to get the right students in the right seats on the bus.
So are athletes able to apply for these programs?
They are.
Does it
Absolutely.
interfere with?
So we try to make a way for everybody.
Awesome.
We want to try to make a way because I'm a big proponent. You go through high school one time, and I can honestly say that I've never been part of telling a young person, "Hey, I don't want you to do that. You have to pick."
Yeah,
that's just not me because what you tell them not to do may be their thing. Yeah. It may end up being their career or something that they have a future in.
Yeah.
So our mindset is try to make a way. You play football, we have athletes on first shift.
Okay.
They work 8 to 12 at 12 for Life.
Okay.
And so we make a way.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Athletes, show choir, you're involved in the theater, FAFA. We work with people. We're in the business of working with people. We want to make a path where these people can, these young people can take part in this because I truly believe that there needs to be more of this type stuff in the school system because a lot of students are graduating high school and they have no idea what they want to do, have no idea. And we're very intentional about exposing students to all different types of career opportunities and then offering a way for them to get real world experience in those roles, particularly through Launch. And if we can help a student identify their career path, find out what their it is, and then equip and train them to do that job.
That's pretty sweet.
Before they get out of high school, that's a game changer. Yeah. That's a life changer.
Yeah. I've seen students where they, my wife was telling me, where they literally walk across the high school stage with their welding certificate already have a job, already making $25, $35, $40 an hour.
Absolutely. And we've got more than ever that are coming out with career outcomes
Yeah.
that are already hired. Students that are in launch engineering roles and medical roles.
Yeah.
They do such a good job. Well, naturally, these business industry, they're not going to want them to leave.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to keep them here? Well, you got to give them a reason to stay. You've got to incentivize them.
Yeah.
But you create value for yourself. And again, it goes back to our philosophy. This is an opportunity. You're auditioning.
Yeah.
You're really auditioning.
Yeah, that's
to
what
get
it
on
is.
somebody's radar. But again, helping them identify their career path, figure out their purpose, because in that dynamic, they have a plan. They have a life plan, and you've helped get the plane off the ground, so to speak. But then, they're going into college and they're not taking classes that they don't need. They've got a directed path. And it may or may not be a 4-year degree.
Right.
There's a lot of 2-year certifications that you can make 6-figure income.
Yeah.
So, we just want to teach them and train them to have an understanding of how to create a really good quality of life for themselves, how to be good people, how to be productive, how to add value to the room, how to be good fathers, good mothers, and create the next generation of winners.
Man, that's awesome. You got me wanting to apply for the program.
Come on, we'll find you a spot.
Well, no, this is some good. I've heard of the 12 for Life program, but I didn't know like how impactful it really is. So now, when I'm talking to students over in Florence, I would definitely be like, hey, you need to be checking out. You need to be reaching out to them.
It's a phenomenal partnership with Southwire in Florence City Schools. It's been impactful. Does not even do it justice.
Yeah.
It's just so many transformational stories have came out of that.
That's what it's all about.
That system.
That's awesome. So, how do you help students connect school to real life success? So how do you navigate that?
So we try to instill in them a thought process
Okay.
that you're doing this now is a foundation for later.
Good.
And there's certain classes that may not be their strengths. Could be math.
Yeah.
Could be English. But you've got to get these boxes checked off so you can be at this place in a couple years.
Yeah.
So you're doing this now to benefit you for later. So there's certain things that it is what it is. You've got to do this.
Yeah.
And again, it's building a foundation for success. And some of the classes may not be something that they end up deciding to do as a career, but you've got to graduate. And that's the first step you've got to do. We don't want to just graduate students, though. That's not what we want to do in Florence City Schools. We do not want to just graduate students. To me, if we just graduate them, we're doing them a disservice, because we want to equip them to be able to leave our house, so to speak, and go out and add value to any room they go into.
That's good.
And to me, a measuring stick for a school system, how well they've done, where are the kids 5 years from now? They graduated high school. What are they doing that came out of your channels?
Mm-hmm.
And if we have a high population with a goal of having every student being independently productive and adding value anywhere that they go, then they can identify those students. Hey, they were part of Florence City Schools.
Sir.
They were in the 12 for Life, they were in the launch program. This is somebody we want to try to get under our roof. So we really try to be very intentional and focused and outcome driven.
You can't get no better than that. I mean, so it's like, man, when you sit back and you literally can see your program, like you can see students in your program. I can literally picture kids going through your program, crossing the stage, walking into a career, or walking away with so much more confidence, so much more belief in themselves just by sitting here listening to you talk about the program. So I know it has to be making a major impact over there.
So we had our 12 for Life graduation last week, and very fortunate, privileged to have Jalen Smith, mayor of Earl, Arkansas.
Okay.
Youngest mayor in the United States.
Okay.
And he just hit home, reinforced what we've really tried to instill in these young people. He's 21 years old.
21. Wow.
Standing up there as the mayor and, youngest elected official. And we wanted to make sure that we put him in front of our young people
Right.
to show that he's got a story.
Yeah.
And when he decided to run for mayor, he heard a lot of, well, you can't do that.
Right.
You're not old enough. You don't have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But he had an internal belief, a personal belief in himself to say, why not me? Why can't I change the world?
Yeah.
Change the expectation, knock down the barriers. And he did a really good job as our featured speaker
Yeah.
in that event. And I think it really struck a chord with a lot of our young people. If he can do that, that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's all about unlocking and maximizing someone's potential.
Yeah. I like because you keep going back to the word potential. And that's something that I think sometimes we look at kids at their present state and we kind of counsel out their future based off their past and their present. Whereas saying to ourselves, hey, let me deposit so much into them that their future has to be changed, that there's no other outcome other than a better future.
Well, I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason.
Okay.
And I believe that every young person that I cross paths with, there's a reason, and it's an opportunity. And I think myself and our staff, and we've got some wonderful staff, and I don't want to get into naming names because I'd forget someone, but it's really, we've got a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
Of educators and counselors and genuine people that care.
Yeah.
About seeing someone become the best version of themselves. But every young person, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. And, when you're seeing negative behavior, sometimes they can challenge you. They can, or, someone, but that's also an opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that?
Yep. What's going on?
What was in your mind? Their internal thoughts and feelings produce external behaviors.
Yes,
what
sir.
you see on the outside, there's something going on the inside that triggered that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to the root of it.
That's good. So that's that counseling background you got.
Yeah. Well, again, and listen, I've been counseled by a lot of people too. So, I really, we're models for these kids.
Yeah.
We're models. If you don't walk it out, you're going to lose respect.
Yeah.
So they've got to, when I have a challenging situation, sometimes I'll get frustrated or angry or whatever. Then I have to remind myself, I got eyes on me.
Yeah.
So don't tell somebody what to do. Your walk and your talk need to align.
Yes, sir. I like that. So my last question for you here is, so what keeps you motivated after doing this for 20 plus years? What's your why?
So that's a good question. That's a good question. And, I think as long as you're in a role, whatever that is, I think you absolutely need to count it as a gift, a blessing to wake up, and you need to say, I get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Not I've got to do that. This is an opportunity that somebody else would love to have, and I'm here, and I was created for this moment. And as long as I'm in a certain role, I'm going to be intentional about giving 110%.
Yeah.
Because particularly when you're serving kids, young people, well, they need to see your best.
Yeah.
Whatever issues you're having, and I try to be intentional with this because life happens. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Life happens to all of us. There's days that I don't feel like going to work.
Right.
Honestly, there's,
Right.
I may not feel great or maybe something going on at home that's kind of but when I walk in in front of young people, that's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they deserve my best every day. And as long as I'm in front of them, they deserve my best. I need to invest in them. I need to, produce as much gas in the tank as I can to help them become better and help them see me at a certain level.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you are mindful and you are grateful of the opportunity that you get to serve these kids, that you get to make an impact on these kids every day. So it's like when I wake up, it's like, hey, now I may not feel sometimes like I want to go in, but my life ain't based on feelings.
Well, so something else that we train our students to have an understanding of is the same amount of time goes by for everybody. Make your time count.
Mm-hmm.
Be intentional. Be intentional with your time. And we're not guaranteed another day. And I know that my time will run out, in a few years in terms of, being in the role that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to say I look back and, made the time productive and was try to be the best I could each day. And we train our young people to do the same thing. This is an opportunity because I know that something could happen to my health.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And that's why a lot of people, I think sometimes you take your health for granted, and me included. Being able to walk, being able to see.
Yes.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
And some people would love to have that.
Yeah.
That don't. So, you need to be thankful for the time that you're given.
Yeah.
And give back. And this life it's not about us. It's not. It's about helping people be better, helping people do better, adding value to someone else's life. That's just that's a good feeling.
That's one of the best feelings you can have.
It is. It's serving others.
Yep.
It's serving others.
There's a quote that says, if you're not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
So, no matter what your belief system is, as long as you're out there making somebody's life better, you're pouring into somebody, helping somebody transform, then you're serving a purpose.
Well, there's no amount of money that can buy that.
Right.
Right. That's just just you've made the world better.
Yeah. And that takes sacrifice.
One person at a time.
Yep. Now, so we've reached the end of the interview. Is there anything else you want to add before we go ahead and close out?
No, other than I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of this.
Yes, sir. It's been great. This has been great.
It's really, really gratifying to see what you guys are doing over here.
I appreciate it.
And with this group of folks, and I love being around like-minded people, and y'all are passionate about what you do too. We're passionate about the same work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We want to change the world for the better, and I think it's an amazing opportunity, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be here.
That's no problem. You want to tell them where they can contact or reach you at if they need to reach out for any program?
Yeah, absolutely. So my cell phone, my work number is 256-710-2012, 2012. My email is cjbehel, BEHEL, @florencek12.org. And my office is at Florence High School in the Career Tech wing. I also have an office at Southwire in the 12 for Life facility. So feel free to reach out if there's anything I can do to help or provide anybody with information.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank you for coming through because I already know how busy life can be, especially with the different titles that you have. So we are truly grateful and appreciative of you stopping by. And you dropped a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, and we can definitely felt your passion tonight, and that you have a heart for the kids. And we just pray that everything continues to go well, and that God will continue to bless you guys, and that you guys' impact will reach well beyond what you guys could ever imagine. All right, so that's the end of the episode of the Elevated Chat Room. Elevate your mind, elevate your life. You guys be blessed. We'll check you guys next time.